Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Raising the Curtain, a Bloomington Normal Theater podcast with Ashleigh. Today, we are here with two representatives of Illinois Voices Theater, Susan Thetard and Donna Anhalt. How are you guys today?
Doing great, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Good. So I'm really excited to talk about Illinois Voices Theater and the two categories that you two both work for. But Susan, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How'd you get involved with theater and what brought you to Echoes?
Well, I've actually been in theater since I was 8 years old. I grew up in Woodstock, Illinois, not the famous Woodstock of the concert. And they had a strong theater program for youth, and I was in it from 8 years old on. And then applying for college, I applied to Illinois Wesleyan and was accepted and got my Bachelor of Fine Arts from them in directing with an undergraduate degree in English. I taught at Tri-Valley for a while. And then I had two children and stayed home, and I worked with community players. I used my theater there. And then one day, University High School came knocking at my door because they were starting school and they had an opening for an English teacher and also to run the theater program. And would I be willing to do it at least for a year? And so I said, sure. And I started doing that. And 19 years later, I was still there running the theater program and teaching English full time at U-High. Got to know a ton of people in the community through my work at Community Players, through my work at U-High, other teachers in the area. Connie Link became a really good friend at the Normal Parks. I helped out there with costumes. So it just kind of was like a spider web of who do you know and what do you know? And Susan Cortese from Bloomington High School and I became friends. One of my student teachers was Kevin Vernon. And so that web just kept growing and growing. Because I was at U-High, then I was asked to do some teaching at the university, and I taught some classes there. Illinois Wesleyan reached out, and for about 5 years, I taught stage makeup at Illinois Wesleyan. So I got to know those professors and those students, which has just that my community has just grown and grown and grown. Well, when I decided to retire, one of my past students, Elizabeth, and her mom was in a group called Illinois Voices Theater, and her mom ran part of it that was called Seedlings, and they worked with children that had unique needs. And I knew this organization, and I knew Donna because Elizabeth had been my student. And she said, you need to talk to Judy Brown. You're going to retire, and Judy Brown's looking for somebody to take over Echoes, which comes as one of the divisions of Illinois Voices Theater. And I said, all right, Liz, I'll go talk to her. And in talking to her, Judy goes, oh, I'm so excited that you're willing to do this. I need to step back, but I don't want to just leave it with anybody. And I said, but Judy, who I knew because her husband had been the department chair of Illinois Wesleyan, I said, Judy, this is your baby. You started this, and you can't just give this up. And she goes, oh, yes, I can. I'm 80 years old, and it's time for me to give it up.
Yeah.
I will mentor you, and I will help you. And you've got a wonderful group at the museum that will help you. And I said, well, what does Echoes do? And she said, well, we do a lot of things, but our primary focus is the cemetery walk through the Museum of History, the McLean County Museum of History, and their gala where they honor history makers that are the people that are nominated in the community who have helped our community grow. And we do a skit at the big banquet that's their annual meeting and that honors these people. She goes, those are the two things you have to do if you take over with this. Now, Judy did much more than that. Judy was a powerhouse. She performed, she wrote, she did things for other museums. I said to Liz, who was at that time the president of Illinois Voices Theater, I said, if I take this over, I retired because I need to help take care of my grandsons in Florida whenever my daughter has to travel for business. I will gladly do the cemetery walk. I will gladly do the gala, but I really can't do a lot outside of what we do for the museum. And if I can do that, I will do it. And so Liz goes, yep, that's what you can do. And so 9 years ago, I took over. I worked the first year with Judy on the cemetery walk so that I could get a sense of how everything was. I knew the cemetery walk because I used to take my students to it. So I was very familiar with the walk itself. But Judy was, she was just an amazing person. So I've done the cemetery walk now for 9 years. I've done the gala. And I've also done a couple times other things for the museum. We did a Christmas production called Group and Terp. And so it was letters that had been written to the pantograph about what Christmas means to me back in the 20s and 30s. And so it was a wonderful show to do at the museum. So I did that. But in the meantime, I also got to work with Donna, who is, you're going to talk to in a minute, who's in charge of Seedling. Both theater companies come under the umbrella of our not-for-profit called Illinois Voices Theater that offers a voice for people who don't often get a chance to have a voice. And that's what Seedlings does. And I love working with Seedlings. And then from Seedlings has grown another undergroup that Donna will tell you about called Encore, which are the students as they get older and can't participate in Seedling because of their age and abilities. And now they have another venue for those young people to participate. And it just so happens that Encore is supervised under Donna by my dear friend, Diane Walker, who was a teacher with me at U-High, and whose son James has Down syndrome, and I've known James since he was born. So it was like all these little links come back together again. So started with a student reaching out to me, and now I work, and I'm not only the Echoes coordinator, but I act as kind of the overseer of our little mini board for Illinois Voices Theater. Technically, the title is president, but I really don't do president things. I'm just organizational. I make sure that our accountant is on track and that Donna and I communicate together and work on things that are there. And so, you know, it's just kind of I'm good at coordinating. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, definitely, especially in theater.
And Donna has her own separate group of people that are her board that she works with. So I work with the McLean County Museum of History. So I have people that I work with there. So it's Candace Summers, who is their director of education. I work with the director of the museum, Julie. I work with Norris Porter, who is the fundraiser and the coordinator of that aspect. I work with their publicity and their marketing people. So my wing of what I do, and quote, if you want to look at it, as the people who keep me in control, are the museum. We have contracts with them, and I coordinate, and I have all my meetings and different things with them. But we are a 501(c), so our not-for-profit status is under Illinois Voices Theater. And we have an absolutely wonderful bookkeeper that's a volunteer, Peggy Prather, that we could not do without. She is just an amazing person and does all that financial aspects of it and keeps us, you know, where we're supposed to be. And so this year I have the cemetery walk coming up, and it's the 30th anniversary of the cemetery walk.
I know, how exciting.
I know, it's very exciting. We asked online on the museum website as well as at the live walk last year for people to vote. We had nominated 16 characters. My director for the cemetery walk is Dave Crostel. Dave and Candace's assistant and I, we narrowed that list down to 16 people. When you think of it, we do 6 to 8 people every year for 30 years. So we had a lot of people to choose from. And then we put those names out there and said, which of these were your favorites? And we guaranteed that we'd do at least the top 2, but we'd also take into consideration the heavy vote getters. I can't tell you yet, but it's coming out soon. But we have the 6 vignettes that we will be doing. I can tell you that one of the vignettes is not somebody who's been there for the past 30 years. It is, we started during COVID having what we call a visiting spirit, because as part of our mission with the cemetery walk, we not only want you to realize that people who have lived full lives, they don't have to be famous, they just have lived full lives and have contributed to our area, who they are, and bring them a voice again.
Mm-hmm.
Decided we'd bring a voice from other cemeteries so that we could talk about Evergreen is not the only cemetery. It is the oldest. It's the City of Bloomington, originally cemetery, and now it's Evergreen Cemetery. But let's see, we've had the Livingstons visit us. The Livingstons are buried in Moses Montefiore, the Jewish cemetery.
Yeah.
It gave us an opportunity to talk about that cemetery, to talk about Jewish traditions. And they were visiting the old partner of Mr. Livingston. He was a lawyer in the community. He was very, very instrumental in the Anti-Defamation League and getting it started. So he was one of our visiting ones. Last year, Paul Bike was one of our visiting ones. Bike Candies, and he was visiting his infant son who was buried. And I can let this little one slip because everybody kind of knows that our visiting this year is coming from an outlying cemetery, and it is Gus and Edith Belt, who are the founders of Steak and Shake. And it's Steak and Shake's 90th anniversary.
Cool.
So
90th?
90th.
Oh my gosh.
90th anniversary. So they are visiting us. They are the ones who started Steak and Shake. But we have others that are going to be there. And this year, because we have past scripts to use and new research, the researchers from the museum are volunteers. They put in hundreds and hundreds of hours of documenting research. And they're adding to the research on these characters because we have more opportunities than 30 years ago that we can access. And so we could use writers that we've never used before because they can see some past scripts, get an idea. And so it gives us another outreach into the community. And we will be using 3 new writers. So they will each write one of the vignettes. We're using one writer that this will be their second time. And then we're using an experienced writer who is one that's going to write the belts. And this is Todd Weinberner. And Todd has written for us over many, many years. So we will be having auditions for the cemetery walk in May. It will be posted on our website and on the museum's website. It will be somewhere around mid-May. We try to do it right after ISU's graduation so that if anybody's, works there or so forth, has a little more flexibility. We hold the auditions at the First Christian Church in downtown Bloomington, and they are a gracious, gracious church that allows us to use their space for rehearsals and other things that we do with Illinois Voices Theater. And then Dave Crostel and I will cast the show, and rehearsals will start in July and August. And then the cemetery walk is the end of September, early October. And we're excited about that. We also have coming up the History Makers Gala, which is also the annual meeting for the McLean County Museum of History. And it's held at ISU's Bone Student Center. And the honorees, I can't tell you who those are. The museum will be announcing that real soon. But this year we have 2 individuals and 2 couples that you have to be over 70 or at least reach your 70th birthday and be nominated, and a committee chooses, and they have influenced the history of our community and in many ways usually. And Kathleen Kirk will be writing the script for that one, and Jane Tomley will be directing that one. And it's always something very, fun and a way to ease in. Well, did you know, like last year, did you know that so-and-so did this or that? 2 years ago, it was fun because Alan Bedell is very, very influential in the program for veterans that gives them mobility with the bikes that they have, the AMBUCs, it's called. And so one of the things on the skit is one of our actresses came in on this tiny little scooter scooting around, and she's talking about it. She's going up and down the stage. So Kathleen is very, very creative with the scripts, and our goal is within the 20 minutes to not only honor these people, but add some levity and some humor and some humanity to it. So those are the 2 things that I have that are big and upcoming. anyone who is interested in auditioning for the gala, we don't do outright auditions. It's people just contact me, and either I've seen them in things and I write their name down, and Jane and I go through the list and we try to find a nice combination of different things. So anybody who's listening to the podcast, if they are interested in being involved in the gala, there will be six performers, 3 men, 3 women. No, it can be any age, any ethnicity. It doesn't matter, because the skit is just a skit. We don't reenact the people. We're talking about the people.
Gotcha. Okay.
And there's some kind of theme to it. So it's not like we're trying to have somebody that looks like Jerry and Carol Ringer. We're having somebody that's going to be talking about those people. And so if they're interested, have them reach out through either Facebook or through the web page, through the Illinois Voices Theater Echoes web page to me, and I will put the name in the little pot. I have an ongoing list of people. They have to be able to give up one morning, because we have rehearsals at ISU on June. This year it'll be the 18th in the morning, and then the show's that night. But that's the only time they have to give up, excuse me, daytime hours. Unlike the cemetery walk that gives up a whole week. And that is one of the things. When you talk about the cemetery walk, we pay well I think, for the cemetery walk for our
I've heard that.
It's a paid gig, because we are asking them to give up 1 week of work if they are not retired. And the walk during the week is for the school kids. And that's part of our mission, is to bring to the kids this idea that the cemetery is more than just a resting place. It is a place of history. It is a place that goes all the way back to the 1700s. It is a place that needs respect. And we've had fabulous response from the students. And so they come Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then on the weekends, it's open for ticket sales. But the grants and things that we write are for the students to be able to, for the students to be able to come. And so those people, when they audition, need to know that when I say it's sizable, I always like to compare it to my substitute pay. So they are going to be making roughly, not counting the rehearsal days, but during the performance days and the days that we film, which we'll get back to with the COVID question, and the 2 nights of dress rehearsals, they will get $1,350.
Oh, wow.
So it's equal to a sub pay of $150 a day. So it's a really strong incentive, because we're asking you to give up. Usually people are taking comp days or vacation days, and we're asking a lot of that. Some people have flexibility where they can still go to work for part of the day, and some don't. So we started that, and we're very pleased that we can continue with that. I work for free. Donna works for free. We're for the Seedlings. We are volunteers, but I can't ask people to give up a week of work and
Right,
say,
that is hard.
well, as a volunteer, and it's a long, grueling day. You've got to have a good attitude about it. You start, 10 o'clock in the morning and you go till 4 o'clock in the afternoon on the weekends. On the weekdays, you start at 9:30 and you go till 3:30, and you're performing, 8 times, 9 times. And that's a lot of work. We feed you well also. We not only pay you well, but we feed you well. We have fabulous volunteers and fabulous restaurants in town that donate and so forth. But it is between the museum and it's a lot of work and a lot of volunteer hours. And I love working with our volunteer guides and our volunteers that do the ticket sales. They just are, our community is fabulous, and we have a fabulous group of volunteers as well. So that's what I do. Awesome. I do a lot of paperwork. I do a lot of contracts. I do a lot of coordination. And I also sew a lot of costumes, because that is my background. I have a Master of Fine Arts in costume design. I worked professionally for 10 years during that break that I told you I took between teaching in High Valley. So I worked in Chicago, and I worked in Nashville, and I've worked in Florida. I've worked in many, many places. I worked in Chicago. as a costume designer. And so I still use my skills, only now I'm helping create on a minuscule budget costumes from the cemetery. And I laugh because one of my mentors and longtime friends before he sadly passed was Frank Vieberl, who was the head of the costume department at ISU. And he, when we were in undergrads, would force us to do a show in what was then Allen Theater for $200. That's all you got. You got a lot of costumes here to choose from in at the school, so make it work.
Make it work.
And your time. And so that's kind of what doing costumes for the cemetery walk is. And Jane Tomley, who was the theater director at Metcalf, she works with me on the costumes, so that she and I together are a fun team, and it's fun for me to get that chance to work with her again too.
Excellent.
Ashleigh, because I can talk forever.
Yeah, I will definitely come back to some. Let me hop over to Donna real quick. Donna, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and about Seedling?
Oh, a little bit about myself.
A lot of it. That works too.
I guess I can start with I'm actually a Chicago girl, born and bred in the south side of Chicago. And then after my husband and I got married, he was a pilot. He still is a pilot, but we had to move to Champaign and Bloomington, where he was flying with Brit, and then he got on with major airline. Then we stuck here. He did the commuting to the East Coast, and we stuck because we liked it here. We loved Bloomington Normal, and we've been here ever since. And but my background in theater is from Sherman Park in the south side of Chicago, when I was in Bye Bye Birdie and other plays, and and then grew into loving theater. And in high school did some work too, did some theater in high school, some plays with my best friend. And then when I got married and settled here, I didn't do too much until because I remember when I was doing, what did I do? Charlotte's Web, which I loved. I was Charlotte, my best favorite thing. Then I did something else, but then it came to a halt because my husband said, we have 4 kids. I think you better stop now until they get older. So I did. And then I watched Elizabeth in theater, and my other kids, my 4 kids, I have 2 boys and 2 girls, go through Metcalf and U-High and did theater. So that was fun. But then along comes 2009 when I started Seedling Theater, which is a theater for handicapped kids and adults. And we started out with just, actually, I'm looking on my notes too. A Christmas Miracle for Jonathan Toomey was our first show. I had read this really beautiful book, and I contacted the author. I said, could I possibly make this into a play? And so she was very accommodating. And so that was my first foray into the theater. And so that was our first one. Since then, we've done like Charlie Brown Christmas, It's a Wonderful Life, all kinds of fun things like that. And then we morphed into musicals. And our first one was Elf the musical. And that was a big hit. We did something called A Ghost Tale for Mr. Dickens, which is another miracle about Charles Dickens kind of having a fuzzy brain on what he's going to do. And it was such a cute show. And again, it was a musical. Let's see what else. We did Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer recently. And our most recent was Honk Jr., which when my staff said, we got to do this, we got to do Honk. I said, well, it's not Christmas. And they said, well, there's a snowstorm, so that counts. So that was our last show. And it was so cute. It was the story of the ugly duckling, and it was wonderful. And when I started Seedling Theater, I at that time had been working with Penguin Project. I was actually the first director of that, and worked for the next 4 years with that while I was doing Seedling. So then it was like, well, Donna, doing these 2 things is not working. So I continued just to stay with Seedling. And since then, besides our major plays that we do every Christmas time, but it's kind of morphed back into November, which has worked out great for us.
Yeah.
That has just worked so good for us. And so we've been around for 14 years now. I think it's 14 years or 15. And we do a Christmas show. Like I said, we did Elf, Rudolph, and Honk and A Ghost Tale, which are musicals rather, which we will continue to do. And then after that, we morphed into doing a camp. So we do a camp 2 weeks in July. And again, we work at First Christian Church. They are just wonderful.
Yeah.
And we have a 2-week camp. This year, I don't know what we're doing, but the last 2 years, we focused on villains. And the first year we liked it so much, we did it again. So we did all kinds of Disney villain, little snippets of shows and some music. So much fun. So if
that
the
sounds so
girls come
fun.
up to me and say, we got to do, this, we got to do this ghost stuff or whatever. We've got to keep doing, this. I said, I don't know what we're going to do. So camp is a big thing. It's 2 weeks and it's just a day camp, again, at First Christian Church. So we also do workshops, which I'm working on now for February and March, which is a one-off thing at the church. We usually do something with the Improv Mafia, which is have you heard of Improv Mafia?
Yeah.
Yeah, they've worked with us to work these camps. And we've also done iStop. iStop kids have helped us.
Yeah.
And then there's another one. There's 3 of them. And I can't think that'll come back to me. So those students come and help with these. And it's just so much fun. They do that too. And let's see, camp, workshops, Encore, which
Yeah.
Susan touched on, which is Diane. Diane came up to me and said, this was a good, I bet 5 or 6 years ago now. She said, Dad, I'd like to do something with their older handicapped adults, like 18 years and older. But and a little bit of a caveat, we also do have adults that come to our shows or are part of our shows that do not have a handicap. Most do it in some way, shape, or form, but some are, we welcome everybody. So
Excellent.
anyways, back to Encore, that's what Diane said. I said, Diane, go for it. So in the spring and in the fall, she has her group, and I help her with that too, because I just love helping her and the kids, and they have different shows. She finds all kinds of different shows to do for her group. So we are a very much rounded Seedling is an all-rounded theater that has a lot to offer, and I've enjoyed tremendously doing it. My kids sometimes get on my butt. When are you going to quit? When are you going to quit? But they just want me to babysit grandkids, and hey, they're fine. I do that sometimes. I have 5, 3, 4, 5, and 1 on the way, and but I just love what I do. Even my husband, he's just wonderful. He's like my right-hand man and helps me do everything. And I sometimes think, well, maybe I should quit. No, Donna, you love what you're doing. And it's not like so encompassing every day. And even the show we do, which is pretty, we have intense 8-week rehearsal and stuff. The girls I have are wonderful, and they know what the heck they're doing. So do I. I think I pretend to sometimes. I know I'm doing, but I have a small staff. I want to work more with actually ISU or Wesleyan kids, which I guess I have done in the past, because they are just a wealth of information. Plus, it helps them, learn more about what we do, how we work with our students, our kids and adults, and it's been a wonderful time for me and my family and the families I work with. They are just amazing and wonderful. The parents volunteer for anything I can open my mouth and say to do, and they're doing it. And so I just love working with them. The church has been magnificent to us. It's the oldest church in town. I don't know if you know where it is. It's in downtown Bloomington, and it's old, and the stage isn't real exciting. But years ago, a friend of mine's husband made us a stage extension, brought it out. Plus, we've gotten a little bit fancier this year. We have stairs to get up on the stage extension, and we've got some new families who have made really good railings and things like that. So the parents, they're like my right-hand man people. They come in and say, what do you want us to do? What do you want us to do, Donna? Just let us know. And they help. And I think that they're so so happy to see what their kids can do and what they've accomplished, and they want to be a part of it, and I want them to be a part of it too, because makes it all around wonderful program with the parents involved. And what am I missing now, Susie? Anything else about? I mean, it's
I don't
just
think
a
you're
wonderful
missing
program.
anything because you're not going to brag about yourself, so I'll brag about you.
Oh,
None of this can be done without income. All right. And
oh,
we have storage. She's talking about her set pieces. There has to be a place to store them. They don't
Yeah.
stay in
Yeah.
the church. Costumes for the cemetery walk. They don't just stay at the museum.
Yeah.
Costumes for seedlings and props and things that she has. So we have storage costs. And although the company that we've been working with has tried to keep our costs down, it's still a matter of costs. And I have to give Donna all the applause in the world, because she and her volunteers and her parents do all these fundraisers to raise money for the things like royalties and
Yeah.
storage. And we have to pay insurance with it. That's one of the things under Illinois Voices Theater. We have to pay for insurance. And so Donna has a fabulous core of friends who donate every year to her. They are fabulous. And Donna just reaches out, and she has family that does the same
family.
thing.
So, okay, Dennis, what are you donating? What are you donating, Randy? Okay. My brothers.
Yes. And so, we have to recognize that Donna is a force to be reckoned with when it comes to fundraising.
Thank you very much.
She's had some ideas over the years that have been very productive. There's been, walks, and there's been raffles of stuff, and there were cookies. One of our students with special needs, he loves to bake cookies, and he started his own little business. And so people were buying cookies from him because a percentage of it was helping, seedlings. And it seems small, but $50 here, $100 there, it all adds up, because we have thousands of dollars of costs every year to keep this company going. And we need to realize that all these theater companies have costs that we cannot totally control.
Yeah, it is so expensive.
Right. And especially if you are a theater without a home, you have to pay for that storage. Well, where is that going to be?
Yeah.
Donna and Rick, her husband, have done a Herculean job this summer of downsizing and trying to get it less storage spaces, so that it's not only are we getting rid of stuff that we've accumulated for too long. I did that when I took over Echoes. A lot of things had been in this storage unit and that storage unit, and I got it down so it's all in one storage unit. And over the time, Jane and I have gone through things, and my husband John has helped us put up shelving in the storage place that we have, and racks and things. So yeah, our spouses get big kudos also, and our kids that put up with us. Yeah, and our kids put up with us too. Yes.
Awesome. Mr. Donna, Ricky's called Mr. Donna.
Like, Mr. Donna.
Mr. Donna.
Yeah, he won't let me quit. And it's just, I love it. I love what I do. And the kids, I call them kids, though a lot of them are, older. And the kids that have come now from Penguin Project I'm really happy with that, because Penguin Project's wonderful. Like I said, I worked it for 5 years, and they have a much bigger stage. They have more kids. They have mentors, which we don't. We don't address, like have our actors are our actors. We don't have someone helping them like Penguin, but that's a whole different story, because Penguin's nationwide now. But we just love what we do. And again, kudos to the church that hasn't charged us a dime, though we do give them honorariums and stuff and free, here, come see the show, here's some tickets. And we do the best we can with what we have. People will say, we have to find something else. We have to find something else. Yeah, but something else is probably going to cost us.
Yeah.
When I think I went to my own church, this was a while back, and they were going to charge me. So, but First Christian, of course, I donate to them as much as I can when I can, and, bring them goodies, or, we clean up real well afterwards. And because we have to take down the stage extension and take it back up, and it's a lot of work,
process.
But we are, like I said, besides the girls I work with, those parents are gold. I don't know if you
Well,
work
and
with
Donna,
them.
you have three people that have really, that I can think of off the top of my head. Obviously Grace and Katie, who have directed and worked with you. But you have a music person that has,
Paula.
yeah.
Paula
And
was just with me before I got on with you guys. We were going through something. Yeah, Paula's our music person. Those three ladies have been with me pretty much since day one, I think.
Oh,
Right.
wow.
Yeah, and they are tremendous. I've gone to rehearsals and I've gone over and helped at the storage unit. Grace was looking for things and
Yeah.
and I was helping and so forth. And they just give heart and soul as well. And Paula, I've worked with, she was on our board for a while, and she just is a joy
Yeah,
and
she
full
is.
of enthusiasm, because these students are a range of capabilities.
Mhm.
Some of them are very verbal. Some of them are not verbal at all. Some of them have limited cognition issues. Some of them have some have mobility issues.
Yeah.
And yet you go to the shows, and
Mhm.
despite the fact that sometimes you're wondering exactly what they're saying, you see the joy and the enthusiasm that they have, and you follow that story no matter
Yes,
what,
you do.
Yeah.
because we all have minds that can do that. And it is a joyful thing to go to. I try to go every single
Yeah, you
year.
do.
It's
Mhm.
been the last couple shows I haven't been able to because I've been out of town. I did not get to see Honk, but oh my gosh, I left Elf and I was like, I just felt
Yeah,
so good.
wasn't Elf cool? Yeah.
Yeah. I just felt
Fun.
so good that particular year. And the Christmas Carol version one too. I can remember distinctly about that. And my first encore show that I went to, which is the older, the young
Yeah.
people, as we call them, many of them had some verbal issues. And I was so impressed with Grace, who works with Donna, because she was on stage with them, because she knew they were going to struggle. They didn't want to come out on stage. They were so nervous. And all of a sudden there's Grace in her black, because she's backstage working,
Of
right?
course.
She comes out on stage and she's with them and she's whispering lines in their ears, and the rest of us just kind of went in the audience, oh well, Grace is there, but we don't notice her anymore, because
Yeah. Yeah.
she was just helping. And these kids just beamed when they got their applause. And you just go, this is what theater is all about.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
this is the joy of watching these young people and how it gives them a phenomenal outlet. So, kudos to Donna, and I hope this program continues.
you.
I've talked to the ISU students that have come and worked her camps. I think the camps, when they added those, was
Yeah.
hugely
I think it's a
beneficial.
great idea.
Yeah.
Camp is fun. Camp is always fun. It's so laid back, and there might be a little bit of memorization or something, but we have a great time. We just do.
Very
It's
cool.
And as I said, you are dealing with some issues that they've been diagnosed with, but as a teacher for 35 years total, I can tell you that my brightest and most brilliant students do many of the same things: to get up on stage and forget their lines, get up on stage and can't remember their choreography, don't want to walk out on stage because, oh my God, mom and grandma and that. And it's and they have those same traumas. And so it is so wonderful what Donna and her team do with these children and young adults, because it is just really inspirational.
They surprise me. We get a script. I say, oh no, they're not going to memorize all this. We're not going to do this. We're not going to, and it happens. It's a miracle.
It always comes together.
A miracle has happened on this farm. That's from Charlotte's Web.
We talk about theater as a tool to help people that maybe are shy, or help people to express emotions, or help. Here was a way to improve your speech. The lines from a
I've
play.
never heard that. That's amazing.
Think about, we work with our students, and Ashleigh, you do too. You work with them for enunciation and an accent, if they're doing an accent, and clarity and volume, and all of these tools that we use in theater that are the same tools that they're using with Seedling as they're helping them to create magic on stage. So and I do it with the actors in the gala and the actors that are out at the cemetery walk. These are adults, and many of them have been performing in the community for many years, and they're very, very talented performers. We are so blessed in our community to have such talent. And yet I find myself, I go and watch, and my director, Dave, will say, why don't you come on out and watch this? And I'll go, okay, Dave, he needs to slow down. Or Dave, I'm, because, as the director, the speeches so well, you need an outsider sometimes to step in. And I'm thinking, these are the same things that Donna's dealing with. Just these kids have other issues. So it's really wonderful.
Yeah. So, Susie, you kind of mentioned this, but as we had said, Illinois Voices Theater is kind of the umbrella over Seedling and Echoes. So I'm curious, do you guys have like one mission statement? Do you have two different ones for each organization?
No, we have a mission statement that then we have adapted to fit each of our companies as well underneath here. But predominantly that mission statement is that we want to bring voices that are unheard to the community. And in Donna's case, they are these young children that have various learning issues. In my case, it is those people who are no longer with us and bringing their voice back. Here we have the first woman, a couple of years ago, the first woman that ran for office, finding a glitch in the Illinois law. Since she was allowed to vote for under Illinois law for president, she could run for the Bloomington City Council. And so, explaining that she didn't win, but she talked about the momentous aspect of it and talked about garbage was an issue back then. Garbage is an issue today.
It is.
And so to bring to young people to hear these voices of people in the community and what they worked towards. So when both of our missions are very similar, just a different audience and different voices that we're bringing out.
Voice you're showcasing. Yeah, that makes sense.
And I went to get one of our.
Oh yes. Okay.
And actually the official statement is establishing a stage for voices of the community that have gone unheard, been unspoken, or are forgotten. So I remember working on this so many years ago. I think I'd memorized it, but I can.
You think I would too, but
it's like,
I know the gist of it.
Right.
But the wording is beautiful, and it's on all of my Illinois Voices Theater things too. But so that's our mission, is to give a voice to people that don't have a voice.
How did COVID impact your guys' organization?
Well, COVID impacted us in the sense that we could no longer be live. We are live theater. And the first thing was the gala. The annual meeting could be held on Zoom, but what we're going to do to honor these honorees, would we just not do it that year? And instead, I came up with the idea of filming it, and Community Players was awesome. They allowed us to use their stage, no audience in there, but we went in, we rehearsed in masks. We rehearsed via Zoom for the longest time. And then on stage, we were at, long distances from each other on the stage rehearsing. And the only time that they physically, while we were filming, came together was for the last song, and we never had them do the last song together until the day we filmed. And then that film was shown via Zoom and was available on the museum website for people to see. And so you have to be vaccinated. That was one of the rules. You had to have a mask. The very first one it happened, the March, and we totally canceled that one.
Yeah, so did we. We canceled
now we had to figure out how we were going to do it. There was a vaccine available, so we canceled the first one. The second one, we still couldn't be live. You could not have 500, 600 people sitting together, eating together, whatever. And so that's how we solved the gala. Now with the cemetery walk, it was a lot more complicated, and yet almost in a certain sense easier.
Yeah.
We rehearse outdoors. We rehearse at Evergreen Cemetery. The cemetery board and the cemetery employees are amazing. And we are singles with a director. okay, who could be quite a distance away. And then we filmed them. And
I
we
remember
did
that.
we
Yeah, I
did
remember
have
too.
we did have a duet, and that was our toughest one. They rehearsed not near each other. It was Jesse Swike and Connie Blick. But the funny part was on the day that they were going to perform, and they got to be close together now, they kept their masks on until we started filming, and they were aware, and they both were vaccinated and so forth. But Connie laughed because I was there with my bottle of, of hand stuff,
Yeah.
because they would forget and they'd touch each other.
Out of habit, yeah.
Right, because in the scene, it made sense. And so we'd film it, and I immediately run up there and put the sanitizer on their hand. And Connie and we were laughing about, getting it filmed, because theirs was the toughest one.
Yeah.
We filmed it, and here was a good side of COVID. We have what we call an audience that was aging out, because they were now moving into assisted living, many of them that had started, because remember, this would have been our 24th year, and some of them had been already in their 50s when they first started coming to it, and now, they're moving into assisted living and so forth. And we were getting less and less of them, and during COVID, they could watch it on their TVs, and they could watch it and stop it and go back, and the nursing homes were showing them as a thing to keep them, because they were all being forced to stay in their rooms instead of gathering together and eating meals together.
Yeah, that was
because they were so vulnerable. So this was entertainment for them. It was something other than the TV. They could put it on and they could talk about it via Zoom and so forth. And it was so popular that then the next year, when we could go live, we went live with smaller groups. Our groups are usually about 20 people in a group, and we went live with 10 in a group, so that they could keep some distance between them.
Sure.
They could wear a mask if they chose to, but we did not make them wear masks. But we did make sure that our actors didn't do any, in the cemetery walk, a lot of times our actors walk right up to the audience and talk to them. We kept them back.
Okay.
And where we gather for our lunch and so forth, we moved the tables out and spread them far away, so that there was not large groups sitting next to each other eating. So we tried to be as cautious as we possibly could, and no one got sick. We were so lucky.
That is very lucky.
Right. And so I still have the rule that you have to have at least the first 2 vaccines. I recommend the boosters, but you have to have at least the first 2, because with the first 2, at least, should you get COVID, and we know you're going to get COVID even if you've been vaccinated, but should you get COVID, you usually don't get as sick. And after 5 days, you're usually able to be around.
Yeah.
So we have been fortunate in the fact that we are not a large company on stage. With the gala, again, because of being able to rehearse at the church, we could stay farther distance away for the line throughs and learning the music. They were at the church, but they weren't sitting on top of each other. And I did have performers that wore the mask for the line throughs, would only take it off for the singing, and wore them backstage, because it's close quarters back at Bone Student Center in the little dressing room that's back there. Some of them chose there, and I keep a hand sanitizer available all the time. So it has improved, I guess, in a sense, how we look at safety. I'd always looked at safety from other issues, but now we're even more so.
Right.
But it was the filming was the plus side, because it has been so popular. We still continue to film it. This year we have a grant that's helping to underwrite it, because it is expensive to do. But the senior facilities and the schools have loved it. Some of the schools can't come anymore because of the busing situation. We don't have enough bus drivers, and it's gotten to be expensive to bus them. And so we have had some issues there. And teachers that do come through like being able to access the videos so they can use it in their classroom and say, now, remember when this, and then they take it to a moment in the acting to remind the students. So the video has been a big plus for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when you buy your ticket for the video, I call it have a video party. You know, buy your ticket to the cemetery walk and invite another friend that's never been to the cemetery walk to come to your house. Feed them pizza and watch the cemetery walk, you know.
It's a
And
party.
I've had friends that have done that, because when you buy a ticket, it's for your TV. So you can have 20 people in the room with that one ticket, you know. But buy a ticket, help support the cemetery walk. Buy a ticket, and even if it's going to be watching it virtually during the month of November, because it becomes available for the whole month. So I highly encourage. It's not as cool as being there live, but it's better than not seeing it at all.
And you're talking about what you did in in the COVID time. I think the first year we did nothing, but then we got online and did some things with the kids, got together and did some things online, which was fun. Or even I would have a time like, okay, guys, we're going to get on, just get on. We're going to talk, you know, and we get on and just talk. So that was a 2 years wasn't it about 2 years?
Well, you did at the end of the second year, Grace did where they did like little monologues, and she taped them on Zoom doing them and put out a little show of them so that everybody could see everybody else's. Yeah, like a little showcase.
And then when we got back into it, that was the year I believe that MTI gave us didn't charge us for the rights for it was just a musical, not a musical, but music that we did, all different songs. And it was really turned out well and very well. And we didn't have to pay, because normally it's anywhere from like $1,500 to $3,000 or more to get depending on the musical. That's a big expense, thousands of dollars, but we've used MTI probably for most of our.
MTI also does a great job that they create these, you can't always get a full orchestra or an accompaniment for a show, and they have a digital accompaniment for your shows that you can rent and use as well. And so that's nice if you have a program that cannot get an orchestra. I prefer to use a live orchestra or a live pianist if at all possible. But when you can't, MTI offers you this option that's really
we don't use any orchestra at all, but we just use MTI, and it works just beautifully for us.
Where can listeners find you guys? Are you on any social media? What's your website?
Illinois Voices Theater has a website that's run by our board member, Stephen Michaels, and Echoes has their own website, and Seedlings have their own website. So when tickets for Seedlings become available, they're for sale online as well as at the door. And that is set up through their website and through the Illinois Voices Theater website. Stephen helps Grace and Donna take care of that. I don't do any ticket sales. That's all done through the museum. So that is all through the museum website. So when you want the most up-to-date information on performances and rules and so forth, you want to use the McLean County Museum of History, which I love their abbreviation. It's McHistory, MC History, McHistory.
Yes.
But their website is where all of that information is housed on, you know, rainouts and different things like that. We used to sell tickets locally, and you'd go to different locations to get them, but that was another thing that COVID brought on. We sell them now digitally, and we have found that more and more and more people prefer it. They still sell them live at the museum, but I would say the majority of people now, because they're so used to it, from including going to the movies, that buying your tickets online has become it. And it's all housed at the museum, all of my stuff.
Excellent. Good to know.
But I want to remind people that we have a Facebook presence also. Yes, we have a Facebook presence, and you know, I have people message me through Facebook all the time, and I get back to you as fast as I can. So if you have questions about auditioning, or you have questions about how you can become involved, just reach out to me through the Facebook page. That's the easiest, using Messenger. I do also, you know, have email and so forth, and all of those things that are on our websites where they can contact us. But for me, the fastest is just message me through Facebook, because that pings on my phone and boom, I'm there.
Oh, I don't do Facebook too often.
I know you don't.
Our www is illinoisvoicestheater.org, so they can get to there.
Our address is on our website.
Yeah.
our post office box, as well as our emails are on there, our Illinois Voices.org emails, because I know, Ashleigh, that's how you reach out.
That's how I found you guys. Yeah. Also, shout out to John Poling and Dave Crostel for putting me onto your guys' website and getting you on the podcast.
Good.
It's great. We love them both. So
I do too.
So I'm going to ask you guys your own individual question, and it's just a fun little question that I like to ask everybody. Susie, let's just start with you. Do you have a favorite play or musical?
Yes. Les Mis is my favorite musical. I saw the original workshop production in London with my best friend Wesleyan at the time. It moved me so much. Of course, there were changes made because it was still in preview, but that is my all-time favorite musical.
I love that show.
And I think, and the irony is, my second favorite musical is Working by Studs Terkel. And part of it is because when I did it at U High, I had an amazing cast of people because it's all vignettes.
Yeah.
And I think back to that, and I think back to those performers, and I've stayed in touch with almost all of them since then. And it's just kind of, it was so much fun to work on that I still remember that. As far as a play, I think I have a zillion different plays that I love. But we're going to go back to a silly play that I still love to go to, no matter whose company is doing it, and it's Arsenic and Old Lace. Because it is just the epitome of a farce, and the two old ladies just drive me crazy that they are so funny. And I think because it's a venue where you actually truly have women as the leads, and that doesn't happen very often.
I want to say Vermilion Players in Pontiac is doing Arsenic and Old Lace.
I think they are, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think. What about you, Donna? Favorite play or musical?
Well, I love so many musicals and have been to many of them, but there's one that my husband and I have been to, and it's a pretty recent one. 4 times we've seen it.
Oh, wow.
In Peoria or Chicago, or it's called Come From Away.
Love that show. Great show.
It's very near and dear to our hearts because my husband is a pilot, and during that time he was in Madrid on a trip, not there. So of course it was really emotional for all of us, my family. He was in Madrid, the kids were at school, the kids were all sent home. Our kids were, our personal, to wait for Rick to call, because it wasn't like quickly type, you can just email somebody or something, wait for his call. And he he was in Madrid in a hotel room. The kids came home, and it was pretty emotional for all of us.
Bet.
So we have seen it, like I said, 4 times, and I've seen it with Rick 4 times, and with some of our kids and other people. So that's got to be number 1 for now. I love a lot of musicals. So it just goes to our heart because of a lot of things. Play wise, boy, I've got to say, one of that I've been in is Steel Magnolias.
Great show. Yeah.
And I loved working with all the women. And another one is Charlotte's Web. When I jumped back into theater after my kids are a little older. So here I am being Charlotte. And after that show, any place I'd go with my kids who were little would say, "It's Charlotte." That's because they can hear my voice and talk. Said that's Charlotte. So I guess got to get that one for her too. I just love Charlotte's Web. It's a wonderful story.
Charlotte's Web was actually the first show I did with Alan Wilson at Tri-Valley.
Really?
Yeah, I was the sheep. The sheep.
The sheep.
I got to bat on stage. Tri-Valley. Tri-Valley Middle School. Yep, I was in 7th grade. And wow. I have to give Alan Wilson a lot of credit for, I was doing theater when I was little, but Alan is the one who really taught me a lot of what I know. He's the one who got me involved with community players. So shout out to Alan there.
That's right, where it was at Community Players for being Charlotte. And it was just so much fun.
You weren't even a flicker in your parents' mind at the time, but I was theater director in English at Tri-Valley in 75 and 76.
Oh,
so yeah.
Yeah, we're the old folks here. So.
I know.
That's all right. We love that. Anything else either of you would like to add? I think this has been fantastic, and I'm so excited for this episode to air.
by
I
noon.
think the only thing is something, Ashleigh, you and I talked about earlier, that here we are in central Illinois, and we are so fortunate that we are impacted not only by our own universities here in town, but by all the universities surrounding us and the talent that we have in this community. When you
It's
go
crazy.
to Heartland, or you go to Community Players, or you go to any of our shows, it is truly, truly amazing. And I'm disappointed that I will be out of town because the Nomad is back up and running, and I've enjoyed the Nomad too. And again, the talent that you see. I go to a show and I save the programs because this is, you know, I make a list from there going, oh, I should contact so-and-so. I've never worked with them, but I'd love to have them be involved in the cemetery walk.
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of the talent that Dave Crustle and I, are because of our experiences with talent in other venues in town. So we are so blessed.
One thing I've really enjoyed about with the podcast is I thought I knew all the theaters in the area, and clearly I don't. Because like I didn't know we had a local chapter of the Penguin Project. I didn't know that the cemetery walk was part of a greater scheme of things. And then to learn that Seedlings came off of that as well. So I'm learning so much as we're doing these interviews. It's great.
Well, and I learned from Kevin Weichert and John Poling, two of the actors that work with me frequently, because they're involved in so many theaters, like over in Champaign and down in Decatur, and you know, so it's like within an hour and a half, if you just drew a circle with Bloomington Normal as the center of it, you could go to theater every weekend.
Absolutely.
And what I've always wanted to, I've thought about this for about a year or so, and maybe I've talked to you about it, Susie, too, is because Bloomington Normal is so theater heavy, I think we should all meet once or twice a year to compare, to talk, to give notes. When are you doing this? When are you doing that? You know,
people are just too busy doing theater.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've given everyone, I think, all of the information they can handle for one day.
Yes. Yes.
Everyone, make sure you go and check out Illinois Voices Theater's website, www.ilvoicestheater.org. You can look at Echoes' page and Seedlings page and get all the information you need, and make sure to follow along on Facebook. Thank you so much, Donna and Susie. I really appreciated meeting with you guys today.
It's been fun. It's been a lot of fun.
Ashleigh.
I like talking about what I love to do. So
good. Don't we love it all? So excellent.
Yes,
all right.
yes.
You guys have a great night.
Okay.
Thank you. You too.